of the mind to communicate its influence, its change. And if you want to create and bring about real change, not only in your own life, you want to speak differently. If you want to bring real change into your environment, you want to speak also that different level. There's that different level of understanding. And when you begin to understand language and how it operates within the mind, within the unconscious mind, you'll begin to consciously use your language differently. And one thing to keep in mind is that if you could communicate in such a way that can speak to the mind visually, auditorily, and kinesthetically, and or in other ways, smell and taste, if you can use language in that way and you can be flexible in speaking to people, for example, if you're very visual and someone is very, very kinesthetic and you use visual language, they may not understand you to the fullest degrees. Their brain at that moment is operating in kinesthetics. So how do you flexibly recognize that and communicate accordingly? That's going to be covered in week 6. Now, week 7, we're going to talk about the benefits of being a master communicator who understands the power of language and can create massive results in their communication. Because master communicators can easily pitch an idea, sell an idea, and win the case and win whatever it is that you want, the sale, or the deal, or the partnership, or the investment. When you find that, sure, we can't guarantee legally a specific result. We can't guarantee that you're going to make us a ton more money. However, could you imagine what happens when you truly master communication? Now, you may already be a very good communicator because most people actually who sign up for our course are already very successful and tend to be already great communicators. They're not just the average who perhaps don't understand many of these tools. They may already have learned quite a few of these things in their experience, in their successful ventures, and or in what they have gone through personally. Now, that being said, what we're going to share with you in week 7 is not going to be commonly shared. It's going to be stuff that will take you into the unconscious and show you how the unconscious mind understands what cells is. And the unconscious mind begins to give you new tools. And also, one last thing about week 7 is that the reason you can sell effortlessly and convince others or persuade others effortlessly when you master communication in the unconscious level is that the unconscious level is where all the beliefs, identities, and values, what's important to people, right, and their behavior, that's where the center of where those things, their programs are from. So when you can begin to communicate directly to the unconscious, you can have a much bigger impact, a much bigger influence, and it's easy for you to create agreement. So we'll even share with you some technology, linguistics, that allows you to be able to speak in such a way that gain greater agreement no matter where you go and what you do. So then we're going to move on to week 8, knowing now that you have such powerful sets of skills. Week 8 is we're going to ask you to set some unrealistic goals. We want you to set goals that you're, blown away by. You're just like, if I could do this, everyone all my neighbors and their dogs would be proud of me, and my grandmother and grandfather and grandkids, everyone in my family would be like, oh my gosh, that's incredible. And maybe even your nation would be proud of you. I don't know. What I'm saying is, as you set goals in week 8, we want you to set things that are absolutely ridiculous to your current to what is believable to you now, to your current self. So we'll get to that point. And once you've gone through first 7 weeks, your mind will be ready for that. And in week 8, you'll come up with some creative, brilliant ideas. But I will give you a hint. I want you to think what you would do if you somehow got $1 billion tomorrow. And it's taxes are paid for, it's post-tax $1 billion. How would you spend and or invest it? Yeah? And please be very creative, and really it's something that you gotta want, right? And it may not just be things. It may be to fulfill what you want in your environment or whatever. But just keep that in mind that by the time we get to week 8, I'm going to ask you, how will you spend $1 billion? Now, here's the cool part. If you don't use it all within 1 week in this artificially created scenario, yeah? If you don't use it in a week, it's gone, yeah? So I want you to have that $1 billion in your mind that, hey, I got $1 billion, I got to use it all in 1 week. What do I do? Now, for some of you, you might be like, that's easy. I already got it, right? I can do it. For some of you, you're not. You're not there yet. So regardless, this $1 billion, you can only spend it within 1 week, period. So that's week 8. There's going to be a lot more content, but this is the core of it. In week 9, we're going to show you how to create balance. Some of you are going to say, man, now I have these extremely awesome goals, that I know to be unrealistic, but I feel good. Like paradoxically, I feel good about them, confident that I deserve to have them. And for some of you, literally in week 8, you would have to set goals that if you had a 10 billion or 100 billion, because you're financially already past a billion, then great, set the goal or make the number 10 billion. How would you use it? How would you spend it, right? But just backtrack a little bit. Week 8, setting unrealistic goals has nothing to do with the monies. I want you to set unrealistic goals, and I'll give you full instruction by then. But attached to your goals is the billion or 10 or $100 billion that's just there for you to utilize. And really, it depends on your level. If you're beyond that too, then set bigger numbers and say, hey, if I got that in a week and I have to use it all, what would I do? So just scale it according to where you're at right now. And then, but minimally 1 billion. In the ninth week, when we talk about balance, what's really important is that you understand what's important to you is what you dedicate the most resources to. So if you want balance between work and some people call it work-life and balance, right? That work and that personal life balance. Well, if your personal life is a lower priority and your work life is a high priority in your unconscious, you can do what you can to create that work-life balance. You'll still end up more at work because the value that drives your beliefs and your behaviors is placed on work. So what we're going to do is we're going to show you that you can actually tweak what's important to you when you want, where you want. So you can actually custom modify those things. And it makes it a lot easier for you to have balance because balance is automatic when you place what's important to you in an order that actually is ideal. Now, it may require some experimentation because everyone's different. Everyone's got different things that's important to them. So if we begin to play with that carefully, of course, you'll begin to notice balance naturally begins to happen. And frankly, it's not necessarily balance that you may be after. It's more massive result, but more personal free time to do what you want, right? If that's true, what you'll find is as you go through all the trainings up to this week, week 9, you will have gained some massive skills and remove some blockages and some mental obstacles that allows you to experience more and more flow state at work and or in your relationship and your personal life. If you haven't noticed, everything up to week 9 now is all about creating that flow state, setting up the right foundation for flow state. In the 10th week, we're going to dive into the true power of the unconscious and what it can really do for you. And it only activates really when you're in the flow state. So this training is really here for us to help you achieve massive amount of flow states. Now, keep in mind, everything that we share here is going to be very direct. Well, sure, there are some parts of it that are indirect, but we're going to be as concise and as precise as possible. We want you to get results as quickly as possible. Because once you notice that this begins to work really well and that it works, you'll find that the mental programming practitioner course and or the mental programming master practitioner course will give you the a lot of detail and the depth of all these skills and understanding and knowledge. It will dive in so deep so that you will understand and know how to use those skills. And of course, we're going to expand a lot more. There's significantly more training and understanding in the master and as well as the practitioner course. And those come with a in-person training as well. So definitely, as you go through these first 10 weeks, you'll notice, wow, this really begins to work, and if not, has already worked really well, then if you're interested, if you find yourself wanting to, definitely schedule a call with our team and get involved with the practitioner and or master practitioner course. Now then on to the last 2 weeks where we really have built some pretty next level content. Week 11 is about how you create. Now you may say, what do you mean? That sounds like a simple concept. I create all day long. What I'm talking about is the concept of will, the willpower, the will of the mind, and your imagination. When you add the two together, you'll find that that's how you create. Will and imagination. Imagination, and in the ancient time, they believe that it has a very, and even in the modern time too, imagination has the yin side, which is the feminine side in the energy, and the masculine side, or in the energy sciences, and they believe that's the yang or the masculine side, the will. And when you bring the yin and the yang together in the Taoist beliefs, what's interesting is that you find creation naturally occurring, the masculine and the feminine joining together. Now, This is an interesting part of the training because it goes out of the mental programming side of things and begins to dive into. Now, this isn't really actually at all about spiritual or spirituality. This is about understanding the nature of the imagination of the mind is actually beyond just some thoughts in the mind. And this is also going to demonstrate that your will, the will of your mind, is beyond oftentimes what you think just in your mind. When you properly combine the power of the two, you'll find some rapid changes that can begin to occur in the physical. We'll dive into a lot more of that in week 11. And then lastly, we're going to show you how your success, creating success, is your natural state. See, people say, I have to work hard, I have to do this. They give themselves conditions logically. I mean, like in math, they're like, I have to do this, I have to have this, and if this condition exists, then I can have success. Sure, it may or may not be true, but oftentimes we add these conditions that are absolutely not true and unnecessary. So we're going to show you how you can begin to not only understand, but live in such a way that success is your natural state. And anything that isn't success is not your natural state. And if you begin to incorporate that mental program, what you'll find is you'll begin to remove things that causes you to not naturally succeed. The obstacles, the mental limitations and different things. So week 12 is very special because as simple as it sounds now, it wraps around the entire training and gives you a full conclusive perspective of why you want to believe that you deserve success and it's your natural state. And so all the skills that you've learned up to week 12 will be magnified because your mind's like, oh, I deserve success. I am success. And because of that, all the tools will be used at the unconscious level at the full scale instead of, a certain small percentage. And you'll find that you'll tap into more of your potential. We meet a lot of people and a lot of them have achieved fantastic success in their lives. And what we have found is they still wonder, they still feel this fear. What if I don't achieve and or live up to my true potential? What if I wasted my life just chasing one thing or another? What if I wasted my time because I didn't do this or that? What if I miss out? Yeah, and it's not just a fear of missing out. It's literally, hey, I know I have more power. I know I could do more. I know I could really create more, but I'm so comfortable, right? And they presuppose that being more successful, even more so than they are now, being more happy, being more powerful, being more of who they are, who they could be, would require more energy. But it's not necessarily true. In fact, what if that program is false? And so we're going to show you that you can actually build a program where success is your natural state, which means you don't need to do. What you have to do is simply be.